welcome students aspiring to study higher education in India and abroad. I wish to give a small brief about overseas educations as well as higher educations overall. Just a small brief. So, today's scenario, the much talked about industry is the education, especially the higher educations. After plus 2, students are wandering for various education streams. They want to do a very bright course of their choices, but choices are many, and due to various restrictions and various policies, reservations, political factor and what not, students may not always land up in getting this right career choice of study in the most reputed institutions in India. So, there are one options students generally look at going abroad. What they are not able to fulfill here, they feel they could secure an admission into the particular course in different countries. If we critically look at the study overseas versus study in India, why anyone look at or opting to study abroad is the students always feel little superior, or he feel always he is ahead of studying in abroad than his fellow colleague or a friend who comparatively study in India. So, always then another factor, the international degree always gives an edge over a degree what he is obtained in India. So, international degree is much recognized world over, and industries also prefer, when you coming to the job, industries always prefer to choose a student who has graduated or did his higher studies in abroad compared to the local students. Further, there are many other factors which are also motivating students to go abroad. One critical factor is the job opportunities and job prospects. The job prospects in twofold, that students have some opportunities to work while studying also, as well as after completion of the studies, he has a better prospect to secure a job in the country he is studying. That is one of the most motivating factor. Then another area in general, when we see, there is specialization areas. See here in India, by and large, the whole education systems, whether in engineering or management or arts, they normally go through something called STEM, which is science, technology, engineering and mathematics. These are all the broader areas. You have a large number of courses available, and among these, majority of the students who want to secure admissions into IITs and NITs, there are a lot of other hurdles, and they have to prepare themselves thoroughly to secure admissions. So, the aspirants are more, but the seats are very limited. So, the remaining left out students, they will be left with no choice, and finally, they will also land up or end up choosing their relative studies in abroad. When we talk about the STEM education, the standard science, technology, engineering and mathematics, students mostly look at the inner specialization, all these areas. When you look at inner specializations, always it is very, very rare in India. Relatively, these kind of specialization, whether you talk about deep, electrical engineering or artificial intelligence or sociology, psychology, some specialization areas in game design, filmmaking, all so not, that the specialization branch areas which are much promising in countries like UK, and very high level of research intensive studies, mostly in sociology and pharmacy, we talk about in USA, Canada and all. So, these are all the general motivating factor which compels the students to go abroad. There are countries which offers very good courses, say for example, aerospace engineering, aeronautical, mechanical, electrical engineering. In management, if you come, the psychology, sociology, human resource, marketing, when you go for then specialized studies, say for example, filmmaking, gaming, There are many courses offers in all leading countries. If we really look at India, in fact, India is the second largest country where the students aspire to study abroad after China. In terms of talking in large numbers, India is always supposed to become the third largest in the higher education systems, but the higher education, when we talk about it, is always, we look at the number of institutions, the gross enrollment ratios across the country. When you look at the specialized institutions are only situated in the major cities, and the colleges are sparingly distributed. The percentage of students studying in one state may be much higher than the percentage of studying students from the other states. So it is not evenly spread. The specialized institutions are limited, and which will only guarantee very limited number of students in those particular areas. So there is a huge gap left, to the really fulfill the aspirations and the interests of the students. So that necessitates, student has to look beyond and going outside India and there pursue their desired courses. It is not going to be easy. So it's also a challenge. Normally students who happen to stay along with the family till 12th standard at the age of 17 or 18, it's not going to be easy for him to go out of the country and be independent and so on. But it has to be done, because otherwise, it is very difficult if the boy comes in his own home country, whether he fit for the particular study or not. Still, he is pushed into the college, and even at the end of college, if the parents happen to spoon feed, he will never understand his originality, his independency. So that way also, I would rather say that, even little bit of stretching the investment on their education, parents have to really seriously look at, putting the students maybe outside the country, maybe neighboring country or the Western country, depends upon the capacity and the student choices, the financial ability. So which I'll explain a little more detail eventually. So these are all the major factors, in terms of the number of seats available, the specializations areas available. Another very critical need is students, especially when students for USA and Canada, they mainly look into the research areas. The research areas is what lacking much here, but government has been doing a lot of things over a period of time. Maybe eventually in the new education draft policies, there is much talked about the research industry. Hopefully government may establish, but it will take a time. But eventually that's a good sign, that research industry is going to be, promising in the coming years. But till such time, there is a huge gap, and the students will left with no choice, then they have to look at study abroad. When we look at generally, studying abroad, it was normally countries like UK, Australia, Canada, and USA. These are all the countries attracting large number of students from India. So the majority of the students are seeking these countries based on the factors of employment or choice of studies and various other benefits. But the procedure is, little complicated, and the admission criteria is relatively tougher, depend upon which institution he wants to pursue their higher education. So there are a lot of the competitive, the preparatory skills. There is a aptitude skills required. There is something called English proficiency skills required, because these are all countries where they are the home native English speaking countries. So when a students going to native English speaking country from a non-native English country, the IELTS and TOEFL come into place, and one has to have a desired band and desired level of grade for these exams as a minimum eligibility. Then for top management schools, one has to have the GMAT, SAT and GRE. There are difficult, the other aptitude skills requirements are there. So very select and very top scoring students may end up choosing these kind of an institutions, and they secure admission, and they get a promising career. But what larger segment of people, they are not aware, actually, which I want to stress here little more. The countries like Singapore, Dubai and Malaysia. These are all the countries, last 10-15 years, much promising. Here in these countries, there are not much hassles like, basic your IELTS score or TOEFL. The admission criteria also relatively simpler. At the same time, they offer a very good world-class education without compromising any quality or any system, any methodology of teaching. So what is the advantage with these countries? It is just closer in terms of proximity, it is closer to India. The visa process is very easier, and the selection criteria is very relatively easier compared to other countries. What is the specialty here? These countries are offering the same world-class education. They offer a degree from UK, degree from USA, degree from Canada or Australia. The same kind of a degree is also offered in their campus in the respective countries, especially when you talk about Malaysia. So all these same systems, same degree are offered there. What a students who would end up spending in India, little more we may end up in spending in Malaysia, and rather he get a very good international degree. He has also have a chance to get himself in independent. He will be away from the family. Any student out of my 3-decade experience, even as one student happens to go to even Malaysia or Singapore or Dubai, we could always look at his outlook even in the short span of time, in the 6 months, say for example, 6 months time. When he come back, we could see his attitude level is different, his policing skills are different, his grooming is different. When we look at here, he gear up himself to be employable even when we looked upon by a promising employer. So within the short 6 months period, his outlook is changing. So that is the one factor again I want to stress why the abroad education is little better even as studying in locally and stay with the home country. So again talking about Malaysia and Singapore and these countries, they also offer something called a twinning program. So the first couple of years, for an engineering course, if he goes, if it is a 4 years of studies, the 2 years he will be studying in the particular country. The next 2 years, they give a twinning route to either USA, Australia or UK. These options are there. The students will have a triple benefit. One, he will be studying relatively lower cost for a couple of years in these countries. Then he will have another country exposure, and he will do the final completion of studies in different countries like Canada, USA, German, Australia and all. And finally end up getting a global degree, which will actually, promising for a better career. So these students, apart from securing a job in these respective countries, the same students, when we happen to come back, in India, even industries, the employers by and large prefer students, completed in a foreign land compared to local. They always stands better. They will be a preferable choice for the industry hirer also. So that way, even he comes back when he wants to secure a job in India, it is relatively easier for him. So you can always choose a right career, what would matches with your skill, with your aptitude, do the selections rightly and do the country choices rightly. You can always, choose your the good consultant, take the advice, because normally what is happening, even any students even can write to the universities directly, and the universities also will go through all this scrutiny. They will also secure admissions. So what is happening? Till securing an admission process is normally, easier, relatively easier. It is just, you send the transcript and you send the marks and you send your interest or your, statement of purpose or whatever. You give a small brief about you. Most of the institutes may eventually give you an admissions. But the part 2, even in the part 1 cases, even the securing admission to the top institute or some select institute, there are so much of parameters, so much of careful exercises required even in the applications, even in how well you write, even you present, even your purpose of studying. That itself also needs a lot of counseling advice. You may require a consultant advice. It doesn't cost you, because suppose you, particular student, you decide particular courses or a country, you always, it's good, you choose a local consultant who is an expertise, who can give a valid advice. He can do all your job, and he can also take it to the next level comfortably. The visa process stage is so more critical, till you get a visa and till you land the country. If you are attaching with your local, very genuine and knowledgeable consultant, it will make your job easy, because normally these consultants are compensated by the respective university. So you don't lose any money in this availing of these services. So don't skip this. So can always, feel free to take a good consultant advice, wherever you want to go, and before you select your destinations countries. Always, because normally no consultant is going against your interest or against your chosen study. They may also able to complement and share with their experience, so that it will facilitate your decision making little better. Because normally no agents, majority of the agents, they can't afford to tell any lies. But some agents, they happen to probably suppress some of the facts conveniently, so that, if they tell all the facts, you may get disturbed and it may affect your decisions making. So you choose the right consultant, choose the right type of educations, right country, and take all advices and decide very firmly.